Hey, welcome to Dibs on Blue. I'm Stephanie, and this is my sign name. Today I want to show how to play this game, Wingspan. Thank you to publisher Stonemaier Games for sponsoring this video. You can play with 1 to 5 players. In this game, you want to collect various types of birds in an attempt to complete game goals and personal achievements. Whoever earns the most points wins the game. Right now, there's an expansion out for the game with European birds, just to let you know. So each player needs a player mat and the 8 action cubes in the color of their choice. You need 5 food tokens, 1 of each type, including invertebrate, seed, fish, fruit, and rodent. The rest of the food tokens should be put in containers as the general supply on the table. Put the 5 dice in the bird feeder. The dice match the food tokens available. Shuffle the 170 unique bird cards in a face-down deck on the table. You can use the blue tray included in the game for your convenience. Turn 3 bird cards face up on the other tray provided. Each player needs 5 random bird cards, which can be kept a secret or displayed for everyone to see. That's up to you. For each bird card you want to keep, you must pay 1 of your food tokens, and you can pick which ones. For example, if you want to keep these 2 bird cards, you would have to pay 2 food tokens. The cards you don't want are then discarded to a shared discard pile. Each bird card includes the bird's name and their habitat, which could be forest, grassland, or wetland. Some birds can live in more than one habitat. Cards also show the food cost, victory points, nest type, egg limit, wingspan, and actions. Shuffle the bonus cards into a face-down deck. Each player needs 2 random bonus cards. Keep 1 of them and discard the other to a shared discard pile. There are various egg colors, but during the game, the actual color of the eggs does not matter. Set the goal board in the middle of the table. If you want more competitive play, use the green side, and for a less competitive game, use the blue side. It's suggested to use the blue side for your first game. Mix up the goal tiles and choose 4 randomly to put down. The game has 4 rounds. Decide who goes first, and give that player the first player marker. On your turn, choose 1 of 4 possible actions. Your first option is to play a bird. This means looking at the cards in your hand and choosing a bird to place face up on your player mat. The bird card is placed in the row, matching that bird's habitat. If the bird can live in more than 1 type of habitat, you're free to choose. You must always place the bird cards in the leftmost column and work your way to the right. For example, if the bird lives in the forest, place the bird in the leftmost column of the forest row. Put 1 of your action cubes in the Play a Bird row above the card you just played. When you play a bird, you must pay the bird's food cost. Pay the appropriate food tokens by putting them back in the supply. If you see a slash like this, it means you can pay an invertebrate, seed, or fruit. If you see this symbol, you can pay any food token. The plus symbol means you must pay all of the food shown. If you see this symbol, it means the bird does not require food to be paid, which is pretty cool. If you don't have the right food, you can instead choose to pay 2 other food tokens to equal the food you don't have. For example, if you need to pay fruit, but you don't have a fruit, you can pay your fish and seed to equal the fruit. If the bird card's action says when played, you would take that action now. For example, this bird says to gain all invertebrate from the bird feeder, if any are available. This is only a one-time event for playing that bird card. Then, move your action cube to the neutral area of the Play a Bird row. This indicates your turn is complete. Your second option is to gain food. Place one of your action cubes in the Gain Food row to the right of the last bird in that row. For each die shown, you will gain 1 food. The more birds you have in the row, the better the actions become. So, to gain a food, choose and remove one of the die in the bird feeder. You will then gain that food token shown on the die. Choosing this die means you choose to gain an invertebrate or a seed. This part of the action is optional. First, you gain your food. Then, you may discard a card from your hand and gain another food, removing a die and collecting the matching food token. If the dice in the bird feeder should ever show the same symbol, you can choose to roll all of the dice. Then you can go ahead and choose a die. If there's only one die left and you don't want that food, you can roll all of the dice, in this case as well, and then choose a die. If there aren't any dice left in the bird feeder, roll all of the dice and choose one. Once you've gained your food, you activate the bird card powers. You do this by moving your action cube to the left onto the next bird card. If the bird card's action is when played, nothing happens. If it's a once between turns action, as in this example, then on another player's turn, if they decide to play a bird in the forest habitat, you gain an invertebrate, but you would only do this if another player does that on their turn. And you may only do this action once. If it's the same turn cycle around the table and another player happens to do that play a bird action in the forest habitat as well, you wouldn't gain another invertebrate. Wait until the next go around the table, and maybe it'll happen again. If the bird power is when activated, then you would do this action now. For example, if the action says to gain an invertebrate from the bird feeder, you would do this now, if one is available. If you see this symbol on the card, it's referring to that bird being a predator. The card will explain what to do, but let's take a look at this Cache Rodents power. This card says to roll any dice that aren't in the bird feeder. If, for example, you end up rolling 2 rodents, you would take 2 rodent tokens and add them to the card. Food tokens on bird cards are not able to be used to pay costs when playing a bird. The tokens just stay on the card and are worth points at the end of the game. If you see this symbol on a bird card, it means the bird creates a flock. Choose a card from your hand and tuck that bird under the bird card. Tucked cards are worth points at the end of the game. This specific card's power lets you tuck a bird and then draw another bird card. The game provides an appendix to look at that will help you during the game if you don't understand a bird card. Oh, and just to let you know, you're not required to resolve bird powers if you don't want to do them. Anyway, once you've resolved the bird's power, move your action cube to the left. Once you've resolved that card, move your action cube to the left again. And this continues on until you reach the neutral spot of the row. Coordinating the perfect blend of cards and the right combinations can result in more powerful turns. Once you reach the neutral spot of that row, your turn is over. Another option you can choose as an action is to lay eggs. If there isn't a bird card in the first column, it's totally fine. Just place your action cube in that first column of the row. For this action, pick 2 of the colored eggs. The color doesn't matter. Then look at your player mat and place the eggs on bird cards. You can put both eggs on one card or separate them, placing one egg on one card and the other egg on a different card. But remember to check the card's egg limit. This refers to the number of eggs allowed on the card. So, in this example, this bird only allows up to 4 eggs on the card. If you go to lay eggs but all of your bird cards have reached their limits, then you can't lay eggs on any of your cards. At the game's end, each egg is worth a point. This column means you lay 2 eggs and then have the option of paying any one of your food tokens to lay an additional egg. Then, the row progresses just as before. You move your action cube to the left, resolve that bird power, move your action cube to the left until you reach the neutral spot of the row. Some bird powers want you to lay eggs on bird cards with a specific type of nest. In this case, you have to look at your player mat at all of your birds and find ones that match that nest type. Then, you can lay an egg on one of those cards. There are 5 types of nests in the game: bowl, ground, cavity, platform, and wild. During any action you take in the game, wild nests can represent any nest type. Now, for example, if it's your turn again, and you want to play a bird in the forest habitat again, but there's already a bird card in that first column, then you place the bird card in the next leftmost column. You must pay the appropriate food costs, but this egg symbol means you must also pay 1 egg. So, take a look at your player mat, choose an egg on one of your bird cards, and discard it back to the egg supply. If you want to play a bird in that row from now on, you must pay whatever the egg cost is for that column. Your 4th option is to draw birds. You can draw bird cards from the face-down deck or choose from the face-up bird cards. The number of cards you draw depends on the column of that row. This column allows you to draw 1 bird card, and this one allows you to draw 2 bird cards, and so forth. This part is optional. You may choose to look at your player mat, discard an egg from a bird card, and draw an additional bird card. If you choose face-up bird cards, don't immediately replenish them. You have to wait until your turn is over. Then you can draw new bird cards face up to replace the ones you just took. There is no limit to the number of cards you're allowed in your hand. If any of the rows are filled up with 5 bird cards, you can't play more bird cards in those rows, but the actions at the very end of the rows are pretty nice. For example, at the end of this row, you can gain 3 food. Then you have the option to discard one of your cards and gain another food. Then you would move your action cube to the left, resolve the bird power, move your action cube to the left, and so on. So, pick one of those 4 action options. Then it's the next player's turn. That player chooses one of those 4 actions, then it's the next player's turn, and play continues like this until all players have used all of their action cubes. Now that the round is over, keep everything on your player mat except for the action cubes. Just set those aside. Now everyone checks the goal for that round on the goal board. There are lots of different goals included in the game, so you can use the appendix if you need clarification on what they mean. But in this example, players must look at all of the bird cards in the forest habitat. Count how many eggs are on those cards in that row. For example, in a 3-player game, if you had the most eggs, you would place your cube in first place. The other players are second and third. If a player doesn't have any eggs, then that player would be last. To earn any points, you'd have to have at least 1 egg. If, for example, you and another player tie, you would both be first. Second place would be skipped, and the other player would be third. When two players tie, the points of that place and the following place are added together. Then you divide that amount by the number of players and round down. In this 4-player game example, you and 2 other players are tied for first place. The other player is last. Using the blue side of the goal board, using the same goals as an example, it's just less competitive. If you have 4 eggs on birds in the forest habitat, another player has 3, and another player doesn't have any, you would put your cube on the number 4. The other player is on 3, and the other player is on 0. So the blue side doesn't refer to who is first, second, and third, etc., but rather it refers to the exact amount of things you have, up to 5. If, in this example, a player ties you, then you would each earn 4 points, and maybe the other player earns 3 points. Once the goal places are figured out, the face-up bird cards are discarded and replenished with new bird cards. The first player marker is given to the next player and a new round begins. But now, players have to play with 1 less action cube because 1 was used to mark places on the goal board. After the second round, players figure out the goal and place their cubes. The third round begins with 1 less action cube for each player, and so on. After the 4th round, the game is over. Now, final scores are totaled. The game provides a scoring sheet to help figure out scores. The first thing to score are all of the victory points of the bird cards on your player mat. Next, score bonus cards in your possession. If you've completed the bonus, you earn points. In this example, look at your player mat to find all bird cards with this symbol. Each bird is worth 2 points. In this example, count the number of bird cards on your player mat that have a wingspan over 65 centimeters. If you have 4 or 5, you earn 3 points. If you have 6 or more, you earn 6 points. Next, total all of the points earned from the goal board. Then, every egg on your player mat is worth 1 point. Each food token on cards on your player mat is also worth 1 point. And lastly, each tucked bird card is worth 1 point. Total all of those points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. If there's a tie, the player with the most food tokens left wins. And if there's still a tie, the tied players share the win. If you're interested, the game includes explanations on how to play solo. Well, that's it for explaining Wingspan. If you've enjoyed watching, subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when I post a new video. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Dibs On Blue Games. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I will gladly respond. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.